The USMNT are about to play two massive friendlies against Senegal and Germany leading up to the 2026 World Cup, which is only 2 weeks away. They'll be looking to prepare themselves and build confidence before heading into the biggest soccer tournament in the United States in the last 32 years. To talk about this, I brought on my friend Pete from 11 Yanks to get his thoughts on these friendlies, of the importance of them, and how he's feeling about the USMNT heading into the 2026 World Cup. But before we get to that, guys, make sure you guys give this video a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Also, don't forget that MLS Moves is presented by FanDuel, our proud sponsor of the show. Now, let's get to the video. Okay, I got a special guest today, my good friend Pete at 11 Yanks. Pete, I've been on your channel like 2 or 3 times, but you finally make your debut on my channel, my friend, and it's exciting time. World Cup is 2 weeks away. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I can't believe it's here. I feels like this is something that we've been working towards for years now, and now it's here. And I'm cautiously optimistic. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay, so that was kind of going to be my first question for you is how are we feeling about the USMNT heading into 2026? Because this cycle has been chaotic from the end of the 2022 World Cup to now. It feels like longer than 4 years, but you said you're cautiously optimistic. What are you what makes you feel that way?
All right. Well, I'll explain the cautiously first.
Okay.
And that is that this team has, I think, enough talent to do well at this World Cup, right? I think most people probably agree. A quarterfinal should be the goal. With the talent that we have, that's reasonable. Now, it might take beating a team that's better than us technically, but if we can't do that once, then we don't deserve to be in a quarterfinal of a World Cup, right? I think we have the talent level is enough that we could pull an upset if all the conditions are right. Um, so that's, and the home advantage is there. But I think what worries me about this team is that they don't seem to have the mental resilience necessary when the chips are down, when things are not going well, when we're down a goal and the other team is getting aggressive and physical and things that we're doing are not just coming off. Like that happens mentally, things are not going well. So then the things that you can normally do, they're just not there. And I'm worried that we're going to crumble under the pressure. We saw that against Portugal and against Belgium, where we were playing well, and then the opponent scores and we just fall apart. And to me, that speaks to a lack of resilience and a lack of mental toughness in this team, which is something that Poch has talked about in the past, the culture of this team, right? He hasn't specifically called it mental resilience, but that's where I put it. And that's what I see in this team. And so that's the cautious part. I don't want to believe because this team is not giving me a reason to yet, right? But on the other hand, I'm optimistic for several reasons. Number one, World Cups are weird. Oftentimes, teams that underperform leading up to the World Cup tend to perform better at the World Cup. Maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's the lack of arrogance. I don't know what it is, but you see this all the time, right? They used to have a joke in Brazil that when Brazil sailed through World Cup qualifying, they would, not perform well at the World Cup. And when they would dominate qualifying, you know, I'm sorry, wait, let me rephrase that. When they would dominate qualifying, they wouldn't do well at the World Cup. And when they would struggle in qualifying, they had great World Cups. And I've seen that with a lot of teams at World Cups. And so that's maybe a outside reason to be optimistic that this team is under some pressure, that, they hear the criticism. I know they do. And they're going to want to put it right. They're definitely not going to go into the World Cup complacent. So that's another reason to be optimistic. Another one will be Poch will have a lot of time with this group, right? Oftentimes we've seen him in camps. It's reasonable to assume that maybe he hasn't got a ton of time with the team to really stamp his style, but now he's going to have 2 weeks plus 2 games and a week in between games to work on stuff, right? So can Poch pull out something with this team that we haven't seen before because he actually has some time with them? That's kind of one reason to be optimistic. And the third one is, knock on wood, yes, Johnny Cardoso is injured. But other than that, all of our key players are kind of there, right? All of our key players are available and somewhat, at least reasonably healthy. Chris Richards was on the bench today in the Conference League, so that's a huge sigh of relief. Probably wouldn't play him against Senegal, but then he should be fine for Germany and for the World Cup. That's at least the hope. Now, as I say this, tomorrow you're going to release it, or whenever you release it, there's going to be an injury report. So I almost don't want to say it, but it's like, have we ever gone into a World Cup with all of our key players available? I don't think so, right? Chris Richards was not there in 2022. That was a big miss, right? So, yeah, there's reasons to be optimistic, but I try to separate the fan and the realist in me. And the fan in me is just like, everything's going to go our way. It's written in the stars. This team can do it. The referees are going to help us. We're at home.
Yeah.
Luck is there. Look, if you want another reason to be optimistic, we've never had a striker of Balogun's quality, right? Clint Dempsey, it is prime, even though he wasn't really a 9, right? He was played at a 9 at times, but he was more of a second striker / midfielder winger. He kind of didn't always have a spot. But we've never had a pure 9 in the quality of Balogun. And I said this a while back, and someone said, what about Brian McBride? Brian McBride's best ever season was 12 goals in a top 5 league for Fulham. Balogun has hit 24 this season, 24 goal contributions, not goals, I should say, including 5 in the Champions League, which is the most ever for an American, any American, period. And so that's one reason that I think we can be optimistic. The problem is, how are we going to feed him, right? But the realist in me, if I was not a fan, if I was not a USMNT fan, and I was asked to look at this team, knowing everything I know about it, I would say they might get out of the group, but they're going to crumble at the first hurdle. that's the analyst in me, and I hate to say that, but that's how I feel.
Well, first of all, don't tell Tim Howard and Landon Donovan that you think that Ballo is better than Dempsey, because I'm sure you saw that clip they recently did where they thought all these other players that were great, that Dempsey's better for some reason. I absolutely insane. So don't say that to them, because they will probably
Mo
disagree.
Salah. Didn't they say he was better than Mo Salah, or was it
They
Sadio Mane?
they said that he was better than Sadio Mane, Antoine Griezmann. God, who was the other ones? There was another crazy. Eden Hazard, Robinho. I mean, there were some crazy takes on there. I don't know if he was better than any of the people they named on the list. I think they were all probably better than Clint Dempsey. So don't tell them that, because they would probably disagree with us pretty drastically. And when you said about like the World Cups get weird, I agree with you. In 2014, I've said this like 100 times, but it is true. In 2014, if you said the USMNT were going to make out of a group with prime Ronaldo in Portugal, Germany, who ended up winning the World Cup, and Ghana, who's a very good team, nobody would have given us a chance to make it out of the group. And some people probably, I think they did predict us to finish 4th in that group, and we ended up making it out of our group. So, and plus this is at home, which is the first time in 32 years that it's been played in the United States. So there's just all these variables that kind of just like make it unpredictable, like you said. There's just so many things that you should expect the unpredictable when it comes to World Cups.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for, right? I think this team needs a shot of confidence, especially Christian Pulisic right now needs a shot of confidence. I'm just hoping for a goal for him in one of these 2 games, Germany or Senegal, because if he does, he's a very streaky guy. And once he scores, his confidence goes up. Everything starts coming off for him. If there's a penalty, give it to him in one of these 2 games. Anything to get him on the score sheet, and then we'll start to see the old Christian Pulisic again, I believe.
So I guess that's a good transition to my next question. What should we expect from these final friendlies against Senegal and Germany? I think that these are lesser opponents, but not drastically lesser opponents than Portugal and Belgium. That's obviously a better duo than this tandem. But like, what are you expecting to get out of these remaining friendlies? Are you wanting to see the ideal starting 11 play 2 back-to-back matches? Are you wanting more rest? Like, what are you wanting to see out of these 2 games?
Okay, so from a personnel point of view, I want Poch to like have some consistency, right? Like, we have no consistency under Poch with lineups. He keeps chopping and changing and trying different things. Oh, don't worry, next camp we're going to bring in all of the guys that are good. No, next camp there's no starters. Come on, man. We know there's starters. Like, there might be, let's say, 7 starters on this team. We know Chris Richards is a starter. We know Tyler Adams is a starter. A-Rob is a starter, right? Pulisic's a starter, Balogun's a starter, McKennie's a starter. And you could argue that Dest is a starter, although Dest, Weah might be some kind of competition there. But 6 to 7 starters, right? And then everybody else is we don't know. And what I want to see, well, there's first of all, from a personnel point of view, I'd love to see Gio get a game and Tillman get a game next to Christian Pulisic, one each, because those are our two options now if we have to drop Weston McKennie back to Tyler Adams, which in my opinion, we have to because the drop off to Berhalter and Roldan is steep, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
steep drop off. And our back line is, leaky enough. We don't need a guy who's supposed to be protecting the back line being Christian Roldan. We can't have that. So then now that adds another, and I don't even know that Poch is going to do that, right? He might say, no, I'm going to leave Weston McKennie next to Pulisic, and we're going to give you Roldan or Berhalter, which, God help us if that's the case. But let's say he does do that. Give Gio one game, give Tillman one game, make them fight it out to see who starts against Paraguay, right? And I want to see what Gio looks like from a start. We saw him against Paraguay start and do well. We saw him against Uruguay come on off the bench and get an assist. But then in these last two games, he hardly played, right? Portugal and Belgium. So we'll see what Poch does. I also want to see, what's that back line? What's that back three going to look like? I am advocating for a back line of Austin Trusty, Chris Richards, and Alex Freeman, because I think given our personnel, those might be our best options. You could make an argument for Mark McKenzie instead of Austin Trusty, and I'd be fine with that. But Trusty's naturally left-footed and a little bit quicker than McKenzie. But I'd be fine with McKenzie too. If we go into a World Cup with Tim Ream starting in our back line, I'm so confused why we continue to do that. And there's a chance he could be the captain, which means he's starting every game. So personnel-wise, I want to see some better lineups. But more importantly, I want to see this team win games against tough opponents, right? If we beat Senegal and draw with Germany, we're going to go into the World Cup with a lot of confidence. And that's what this team needs. If we lose again, the atmosphere and the rhetoric around the team is just going to be downhill. And Germany is a tough team. I would say they're on the level of Belgium right now. I don't think they're on a Portugal level, though.
Yeah.
But I don't think Senegal's on that. I mean, they're a very good team. They're better than us,
Yes.
player for player. But this is not a team that you think, that they could win a World Cup, whereas Portugal could, right?
Yeah.
So Senegal's a great test. I want to see this team fight. I want to see not arrogance, but I want to see swagger. I want to see this team be like, no, we're going to prove people wrong. We can win. We can do things. I want to see this team, if something goes wrong, step up. That's what I want to see from this team, these two friendlies, because we need to get a nation inspired. We need to get the fan base inspired. We need to get people excited about this team. And there's almost no excitement right now.
No, I agree. And I want to see them put in a full 90 because I feel like even if we have these stretches of looking good, the wheels just fall off and they fall off hard, like really bad, real quick. And I just want to see them put a full 90 where they look competent and they look like they can compete. And I agree with what you're saying about Germany being closer to Belgium. And then Senegal is better than us, but like they're not so good that we can't, counterpunch them. We can't beat them. We can beat them. I don't know if we will, but I think we can. So I agree that I think confidence, like what you're saying, confidence is key right now. You want to go into the World Cup feeling like, hey, I'm not saying we're better than everybody or we're the best team, but we can play with any team. We can do this. Because if you don't feel like that, then you're already cooked before it even starts.
Yeah. Yeah. We need some swagger. We need some confidence, and we need a willingness to fight through the tough moments and stick together. And it's just, I haven't seen that from this team yet. So that's what I want to see.
Okay, so let me ask you this. We kind of talked about the roster. I mean, was there really any surprises for you, like when you saw the roster? I mean, it got leaked on Saturday. Like, was there anything that just made you absolutely pissed off or that you're just like, oh my God, that's like the worst decision? Or were you kind of like, this is what I expected?
I was pissed off, but not surprised, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Tanner Tessman was a surprise. Him being
Yeah.
left off surprised me. Diego Luna, I wasn't really surprised that he was left off because he wasn't in the last camp. And Poch already hinted at, in the last camp, I don't know if you remember this, but he kind of hinted that he struggled with the new formation, the new system, and that is certainly true.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard some other things about Diego Luna that people who are saying he's just this great guy might want to re-question that, because I've heard some things about why he was not invited to the last camp. But anyways, I'm not going to get into all of that. Obviously, the things that pissed me off were Roldan, Berhalter, and Miles. Really, those are the three that most pissed me off. And I could even get on board with Berhalter if you had Miles and Roldan out of there, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, Berhalter at least is quicker than Roldan. He's more of a brawler and he can give you those set pieces. Okay.
Yeah.
Miles has no place on this team. I mean, I've had Cincinnati fans tell me he's not even good in MLS anymore. Like this
He's not.
season, he hasn't been good. So what is he doing there? Right. So even if you left Berhalter and let's say Arvston, okay, and you took off Miles and Roldan and you added Tanner Tessman and Aiden Morris, now we're cooking. I feel like
Yeah.
it's a much more balanced roster because if something happens to Tyler Adams, you've got coverage, you know? But yeah, I mean, that me and the whole fan base, no surprise, most people feel the same way, especially about Roldan. I think he's probably the one that people are least excited to see because also there's a good chance he could start. There is a good chance he could start against Paraguay. Like, people are like, oh, he's a 26 man on the roster. He's a vibes guy. Maybe Poch has played him a lot though. Like, I don't know why we're assuming that he's that. I think he's more 12th to 18th guy on the roster. When Johnny Cardoso was pulled at halftime at Belgium, who came on? Christian Roldan.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the team fell apart. So, yeah.
Well, I think
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think a concerning thing too, and you mentioned earlier that you wanted to see Gio get some starts up top next to Christian. I mean, what about Poach saying that he might try him at defensive midfielder? I mean, what the hell?
Really? The least defensive guy on the team?
Yeah. That's crazy.
I don't understand it. I don't. And we tried that in Copa America. It was a disaster, right? Yeah. In fact, the best we looked at Copa America was the last 20 minutes against Uruguay when Berhalter unleashed Reina and he pushed him up the field. And if you remember, even Bielsa said this afterwards. They didn't threaten us at all until the last 15 minutes. What happened in the last 15 minutes? Gio was pushed into a more advanced role. You hamper Gio. You hamper his attack. You completely neuter his, attacking ability. But also, you're asking him to do a job that he's so bad at. Like, what? Hodge, it's malpractice if you do that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And what's crazy too is I was arguing with people. Some people were really upset. There was like a lot of Luna stands who were upset we took Reina over him. And it's like, dude, Reina is so talented. At one point, I don't know if I feel this way right this moment, but maybe like 2-3 years ago, I thought Reina was the most talented player on the entire team. Like I thought his ceiling was higher than Christian's if you put it all together. He's just way too talented of an X factor to leave at home, even if he doesn't play, which I think he's going to. He's just too good to not be on your 26-man roster. So I just don't get why people are so upset about it. It's just ridiculous, man.
Well, look, to be fair, his club career is a disaster right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, it failed at Dortmund, failed at Nottingham Forest, and now I don't want to say failed at Gladbach, but it's clearly not going well. He's almost never starts. Has been getting more minutes off the bench recently, but come on, right? Like, that's not a good thing. 1 goal all season. But the reason he's here is because when he puts on that USA jersey, 90% of the time he delivers. That's it. And people will say, well, Luna has more goals under Poch or whatever, more goal contributions. Yeah, against Gold Cup level teams, Guatemala, Trinidad and Tobago. He made Jorge Sanchez against Mexico look like prime Cafu, right? Like, what are we saying? Gio's goal contributions were against Uruguay, Paraguay, in the past, Mexico, Canada, Ghana, right? These are the level of teams that Gio has not just scored against, but dominated, right? Like Nations League finals, high pressure games, dominated. That game against Canada, maybe the best I've ever seen Gio play for this team. Mexico, goal and assist in 2021. 2024, rescued our asses versus Jamaica with 2 assists off the bench and then a goal against Mexico in the final. Gio loves big moments. And I don't know if Gio's going to deliver at this World Cup. World Cups are high speed, high pressure, high intensity, and he may struggle with the pace of the game. But once again, off the bench, I'd so much rather have Gio if you need a goal.
100%. 100%. I think he's definitely more equipped to make an impact by far than anyone else who was left off this team. Gio Reyna is, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to my next question. The easy one is Pulisic, because you mentioned earlier about how we need him to hopefully get some form before the World Cup and maybe get that confidence back, which might happen because I don't think outside of injuries, Christian really has more than like maybe 5, 6 months of a bad spell. Normally, the pendulum will kind of swing. Hopefully, this is like where it kind of does go back in his favor right for the World Cup. But besides Christian Pulisic, who has to have the best World Cup for the USMNT in order to make a deep run?
Balogun, we need goals. I think our defense is going to be leaky. Like, I don't think we're going to have a lot of 1-0s. I think Balogun has to show up at this World Cup and become the guy, you know? And sure, some of that is dependent on feeding him. Oh, and by the way, just to bring this back to Gio, Christian Pulisic has said he feels most calm when Gio Reyna is on the field. And that makes perfect sense to me because Gio takes some of the burden of creativity off of him and allows him to play more freely and with less pressure. He's a very mental guy, Pulisic, right? And I think when he really is feeling the pressure, he tightens up and he struggles and he starts playing hero ball and forcing things and nothing comes off. And then you see him hitting the ground and getting frustrated and it just gets worse. And then Balogun has said multiple times the guy he loves playing with most is Gio. And I think that should be taken into consideration when two of your maybe 5 best players are saying that. It's at least worth giving him a start, you know? But I think Balogun needs to have a very good World Cup. I think Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Chris Richards, that's our spine, right? From the back to the front, our spine needs to be really good. We can get, assists and chip-ins and, Dest and Weah and A-Rob and hopefully whoever's in that back line. But I think our spine needs to show up at this World Cup. Richards, Adams, McKennie, Pulisic, Balogun, those 5. We're going to rely
Okay,
on them.
so this is kind of like a different point of view with it. So, like, all right, of all the players that we are counting on, who can we afford to not have a bad World Cup outside of like Pulisic? We obviously can't bad. Like, average is still not good enough. Like, they can't outright just be bad. Like, who has
Oh,
to
Chris
be
Richards.
Chris Richards? Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he's the whole thing in the back
Because,
line.
yeah, if Pulisic has a bad World Cup, maybe Balogun can get you a goal. Maybe McKennie can get a header off a set piece, right? Like, but if Richards has a bad World Cup,
It's over.
I don't even want to think about it,
Yeah, it's over if that happens. Okay, so my next question for you is, how do you think we will do in our group stage? Because this will probably be the one and only episode we'll do before the World Cup together. I want to ask you how you think. I mean, our group, I mentioned earlier, like the 2014 group was absolutely brutal. 2022 group was pretty tough too. I mean, it wasn't like a give me. Iran, Wales, and England. This one is there's not like a top dog in this group, but these are all scrappy teams. There are no guaranteed wins. Like if we come in there and with our head up our ass, we could easily lose all 3 of these games. We could. I'm not saying we will. So like, how do you feel about our chances in our group?
I'm just going to say it. I think this is a tougher group than 2022. And by that, I mean our toughest team was England. No disrespect to England, but England under Gareth Southgate, especially that World Cup, they just didn't look like themselves. They were very timid. They didn't do a lot. They got knocked out by France in the quarterfinal. England is always one of those teams that they're so hyped and then they get to the World Cup and it's like, Even their 2018 run, which, they got 4th place, right? They in their group, they had Belgium and Panama. They lost to Belgium. They thrashed Panama, right? And then they beat Sweden, okay, in the knockout round, and Colombia without James Rodriguez. He was injured for that game, or banned. He was injured for that game. And even then, they only won on penalties,
Yeah.
and then they faced Croatia, lost. And then they faced Belgium again, lost. So really, what did they do? They beat Panama, Sweden, and a James-less Colombia on penalties. I don't think England was as tough as that. And then Wales and Iran were like not plucky underdogs, but plucky also rans, right?
Yeah.
Some decent talent. Bale was kind of past it at that point. Walker Zimmerman handed them, but this group, Turkey, is going to be a big threat. Like if we end up in that last game needing 3 points from Turkey, I'm going to be so scared because Paraguay and Australia do not match up well with us. Both of them have the look of teams that are capable of making our lives very difficult. And if you've scouted the US for even 10 minutes, You go, listen, we're going to defend hard. We're going to deny them space. We're going to foul them. And as the game goes on, they're going to get more and more pressure on them and they're going to struggle. And I think this is going to be a slog of a group. I don't think we're going to breeze through this group at all. I think we'll get through the group. My prediction is that we'll finish second. I think we will beat one of Paraguay or Australia narrowly, and I think we will draw the other one. And then I think either a draw or a loss against Turkey, and we'll go through second in the group. That's my prediction. People say, yeah, we'll probably get out of the group. It's not guaranteed. It's not. This group, we could easily get humbled in this group at home. We got humbled, at home in Copa America with, losing to Panama, right? And then again to Uruguay. Like, that was an easier group and we got sent home. Why couldn't it happen again?
Yeah, and also too, I don't really like how the schedule falls. I don't like that Turkey is the last game because that feels like that might be the most high stake game there is. So what happens if we mess around and lose to Paraguay? Then we're already down. We're essentially down in the ideal situation. Then we got to go and try to get a result against Australia, who kind of has our old demeanor of punch you in the mouth, going to grind it out for 90 minutes. Like you said, we're going to make you earn your points. What happens if we lose to Paraguay, draw with Australia, and have to go into Turkey and win to make it out of the group?
Yeah, that
could happen.
Look, getting group is a disaster.
Yeah.
For this team, for this program, for soccer in this country. Fire everyone at US Soccer if that happens. Sorry, disaster if we get grouped. Potts should never be allowed back in the country. No, I mean, obviously, look, I'm just saying for him, that's a huge disaster to get grouped with this team. You can't get grouped. And I don't think we will,
No.
I think one win pretty much gets you out of the group for the most part. If we can't win one of those 3 games, my God, we're worse than I thought. So I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but I think we're going to get through the group, and I think we're going to get 5 points, 4 or 5 points, and I think we'll qualify in second. But I think this group is going to be much more of a slog than people think.
I agree. It's going to be battle. The opponents, it's there's not a Brazil or an Argentina, a Spain in this group, but you're gonna have to earn every single point. I think my best case scenario, Pete, for this group would probably be 7 points. I think we might get 2 wins and a draw. That would be the best. I don't think it's possible we can win all 3 games. I do not think it's possible. I think the best case scenario is we have 7 points. And I think that we're probably going to make out of the group with 4 points. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think 4 is probably fair. I would love a scenario where we can go into Turkey resting some guys. I would love a scenario where we beat Paraguay and Australia and you're essentially first in the group, maybe not 100% first because Turkey could win their 2 games as well, right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Talent-wise, the US and Turkey are the 2 best teams in this group, right?
Yeah.
Paraguay, not quite. Talent for talent, but
playing
style, they can absolutely be a problem. And then Australia, they're going to do what they always do, and they're always tough to play against, always, especially for the way that we play. With the mental fragility of this group. The Australians don't have that. They'll be like, fuck you, So we'll see, man. I think 4 or 5 is probably fair. It's probably the most realistic prediction.
No, I agree. I agree with that 100%. So you said earlier that you are hoping for maybe a stars align quarterfinals. We both know that the worst case scenario would be being grouped, which is definitely possible. So is that the best possible case you think that could happen as us making it to the quarterfinals? Is that the absolute best case realistically scenario you could see? Or do you think we could maybe make it further?
Realistically, I mean, if this team just catches fire, Tim Ream takes 10 years off of his life, Alex Freeman shows up as this incredible center back, everyone stays healthy, we get no red cards. Yeah, is there a 1% chance? You need a lot of luck, I don't know, man. I don't want to say it's impossible to make a semifinal.
Yeah.
It is so unlikely that I want to hope for it. But as an analyst, as a fan, hell yeah. As an analyst, no, we're not making a semifinal.
Yeah. It's hard because I just don't know. We're going to have to beat a crazy team to probably make it to the semifinal. I just don't. That's going to be really because we have to, that would be. We'd have to win 3 knockout games now to make it to a semifinal. I mean, that's pretty tough.
It's very tough, and there's a chance we could get grouped at the round of 32. What if we get second and we face a tough team from another group, right? Like, there's a chance you could be out at the round of 32. You know, I it look, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom here. I'm just trying to put my analyst's hat on more than my fan's hat, because my fan's hat believes that magic can happen, and I believe in miracles, and I believe in all of these things, but I have no evidence in front of me for this team to show me that they have that.
No, I agree 100%. All right, my final question for you. This is kind of more fun. I asked Derek this from Straight Red Card, and I asked Adam this when we did our stream last night. Overall, how would you compare this team in 26 to some of the former World Cup teams we had? I think the 2014 team is a little underrated. I thought the back line was pretty good. Tim Howard, obviously legendary, and Jermaine Jones. There were just so many dogs on that team that if we had that type of energy now, I think the sky would be the limit. Like I feel like having that edge and that energy would probably make this team a little bit better. But like, how would you compare even just back to 2010? We won't go back forever, but 2010 up until now, how would you rate this World Cup team with those other teams we've had?
I think this team is better than 2010. I do. Just talent for talent, right? Of course, they had Donovan, Dempsey, Howard, right?
Mm,
But outside of that team, they were missing some guy. They were missing a real spine in midfield and in the back line. But if you
mm,
look at that 2014 team, once again, it was the spine that carried us. Tim Howard in goal, right? Geoff Cameron at center back. Kyle Beckerman was a incredible
he was good.
defensively in midfield. Michael Bradley, right there as well. Jermaine Jones. And then you had Clint Dempsey, who pretty much played the whole tournament as the striker because Josie went down, early in that Ghana game. So
Yeah,
the spine of that team really carried them. And then, even Fabian Johnson had a very good
he was
World
good.
Cup,
Yeah.
right? Beasley, DeMarcus Beasley was there with his experience, and he was very good in that World Cup too. The depth was really a problem because you started going down to Brad Davis and Chris Wondolowski and, you know, even Graham Zusi, who wasn't actually that bad in the World Cup. Matt Beasler was reasonably good. But what we did in that World Cup was we bunkered for our lives. Klinsmann came out and preached his whole tenure about we need to be more aggressive. We need to be more possession oriented. We want to have the ball. We want to make things happen. And then you went to a World Cup and we didn't do that in a single game, not once. Ghana outplayed us that entire game. It was sandwiched by Clint Dempsey and John Brooks, right? So we defended for our lives, and that team had the mentality to do that. They defended so well. They made life difficult. They were what Australia is now, and they had enough quality to carry them out of that group, and then Belgium destroyed us. So I think talent for talent, this team is similar to that 2014 team, but they don't have the mentality that those guys had, right? That is the god awful truth. And so, but we're not in a group of death, right? We're not facing Ghana, Germany, and Portugal. We're facing, Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. So it's very possible. And this team could develop that. I hope. I hope Poch can knock it into them. I hope so. Let's see what Sunday looks like, you know?
I'm curious real quick too, this I guess like a bonus question in chat. You guys let me know what you guys think too. What's your favorite USMNT World Cup moment?
Oh, dang. I think it has to be Landon versus Algeria because we were going to get grouped. And it was so last minute, too, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing that made it such an incredible moment is like we were going to be knocked out. It was like, oh my God, we're getting knocked out at the group stage. And our group wasn't that tough either. And
Yeah.
then he comes up, like you went from like, oh my God, we're done to like, like just way up there. I think the disparity that goal created in the mood of the fan base was incredible. So I think that was my favorite. But of course, the 2-0 against Mexico, where he scored that goal to the second goal, which essentially sealed the game, that was
Yeah.
another huge moment as well. Um, John Brooks, that was a big goal against Ghana, but that was the group stage, right? It wasn't like the knockout wasn't on the line in that moment, whereas knockout was on the line versus Mexico and versus Algeria. So it has to be between those two.
I would say that I was going to mention the John Brooks one because, Ian Dark saying it's John Brooks. That was like very iconic. I would say mine would be when Jermaine Jones hit that absolute screamer against Portugal to tie it up, or maybe it's take the lead. I can't remember if it
It
was
was
take the
take
lead
the
or
lead.
take the lead. Yeah, maybe it was 2-1. That was a huge goal because of just the quality of our group. We really needed to get a result out of Portugal. So I remember I was like running, screaming out of my house. It was just incredible. And then I remember Tim Howard's performance against Belgium, even though we lost. I mean, 2014 was just so iconic for me. I love 2014. That's very nostalgic for me. I would say I would give the nod to Jermaine Jones's goal, but Landon's Algeria goal is obviously historic too. It's obviously
Yeah.
very iconic.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's exciting stuff. Pete, I appreciate you for hopping on with me, my friend. Hopefully, we will have some positive conversations after the summer, and it's not, totally sadness,
Yeah.
early in June. Guys, make sure you guys go subscribe to Pete. I'm gonna collab with him. You'll see his channel down here at the bottom. Go follow him at 11 Yanks. Him and Tack have some great coverage on each of their channels, and sometimes they actually collab every single watch along, and they do the post games on Pete channel. Make sure you guys go check them out. Pete, it's a pleasure, my friend. Any final thoughts before we head out of here?
I mean, miracles can happen. I know I've sounded like a bit of a Debbie Downer, but I'd rather be a Debbie Downer going into the World Cup and this team that light a fire under their ass than like feeling too confident. Because when you're feeling too confident, that's usually when things don't go well. So magic can happen. We have to believe in it. We have to at least hope. And then afterwards, we can see what happens.
Everybody starts off with the same points before it kicks off, man. So anything can happen,
That's
and
true.
we will see what happens. Guys, hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you guys give it a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.